Alrighty guys, this is going to be a solving multi-step equations video. So what we are going to do in this video today is we are going to extend our knowledge from last week doing 1 and 2 step equations, and we are going to start solving multi-step equations. So first, if we look at this warm-up, combining like terms, remember you need the same variable and the same exponent. So if we look at number 1, we have 12xy to the 5th power minus 5xy to the 5th power. Because we have multiplication there, 12xy to the 5th power is one term and 5xy to the 5th power is another term. So because they have the same variable and the same exponents, we can subtract those and combine like terms. So 12 minus 5 is 7. So we have 7xy to the 5th power. Now in the second one, we have 12xy cubed minus 5xy to the 5th. Because we have the same variables, but we do not have the same exponents, we cannot simplify. So our answer is 12xy to the 3rd minus 5xy to the 5th. Now the last one, we have 3x minus 2x plus 5x. They are all like terms. 3x minus 2x is going to be 1x. 1x plus 5 is going to be 6x. So now, if we go ahead and we look down at the bottom of our page, our goal for solving multi-step equations is the same as 1-step and 2-step, which is isolating that variable, getting the variable by itself. And there are several options for solving multi-step equations that we are going to go over today. The first example is when we combine like terms. So step 1 is going to be combining like terms on each side of the equations. So if we look at our equation over here, we have 5 is equal to 5m minus 23 plus 2m. And the first option that we have, what we're going to do is we're going to combine like terms. Well, our 5m and our positive 2m are like terms, so when I add those together, 5 plus 2 is going to be 7m. So I have 7m minus 23 is equal to 5. Now, the second step is we are going to use order of operations to undo the equation, okay? Remember, we do order of operations backwards. And that is by the arrow method. So if we look over here, we have 5 is equal to 7m minus 23. And if we think of that arrow method, we are thinking about what is happening to that m by order of operations. Remember, order of operations is PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And so what is happening to that m is first we are multiplying that m by 7, and then we are subtracting 23 from that product. So to undo the order of operations, the opposite of multiplication is division, and the opposite of subtraction is addition. Now, since we are moving from right to left, the first thing I need to do is I need to add or undo that subtraction. So, I am going to go ahead and add 23 to both sides. The negative 23 and the positive 23 cancel out, and I have 7m is equal to 28. Now, once I'm done with that addition, now I need to divide. When I divide both sides by 7 here, I'm actually isolating the variable. I'm undoing order of operations. And 28 divided by 7 is 4. So your final answer for that one is m is equal to 4. And over here, your final step, your step 3, is going to be to isolate the variable. So now, as always, when we do notes, I am going to go over some of them, and then you are going to try a couple on your own. So if we look here at number 1, the first thing we have to do is combine like terms. And my like terms always are going to be on the same side of the equal sign. So remember, you can always draw your line down to help you keep those separate. So your like terms are going to be 8x and negative 6x. 8 minus 6 is 2, so I have 2x plus 5 is equal to 25. From this point here, you need to remember your arrow method. And remember, with the arrow method, that just helps us sort out the order of operations. So what is happening to that x based on PEMDAS? So first we have multiplication, because we would multiply that x here by 2, and then we are going to add 5. So to undo that, we would divide and subtract. But since we are undoing order of operations, we have to subtract first. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides to get 2x is equal to 20. Now to isolate that variable, I have to divide by my coefficient. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. That cancels out here, so I've isolated my variable, got x by itself, and now 20 divided by 2 is 10. So my final answer for this one is x is equal to 10. Now looking at number 2, again, we are going to do that same step. We are going to first draw a line down to separate both of my sides of the equation. Then we are going to combine like terms, and my like terms in this one is negative 6h and negative 8h. Negative 6 minus 8 is going to be negative 14h. And then we're going to bring that 4 down. So we have 4 minus 14h is equal to 60. Now again, that arrow method is going to come in handy. So if we look at what is happening to that h, it is getting multiplied by negative 14, and then we are adding 4 to it. So to undo that, we would be subtracting 4 and then dividing by negative 14. So now I'm going to go ahead and do those steps. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract. I'm going to subtract 4, the constant, from both sides. Cancels out 4 minus 4. And I bring down my negative 14h. Now 60 minus 4 is going to give me 56. Now I need to divide both sides by negative 14. Yes, if there is a negative sign in front of your number, if it is a negative number as a coefficient, you must divide by that number. So you need to include that negative sign. If we divide both sides by negative 14, my coefficients cancel out here and I'm left with h on the left-hand side. And then 56 divided by negative 14 is in fact negative 4. So now what I would like you to go ahead and do is pause this video and try numbers 3 and 4. So you try these. So if you want to check your answers, for number 3, we would go through and we would combine like terms on the left side. 14 plus 12 is 26. So you'd have 26 is equal to negative 15x plus 2x. But then we also needed to combine our like terms over here. So we have 26 is equal to negative 15x plus 2x, which would be negative 13x. We divide both sides by negative 13. That cancels out. X would be equal to negative 2. And over here for number 4, we're going to combine like terms. We'd have 3m and negative 2m. So we'd have m plus 6 is equal to negative 22. Subtract 6 from both sides, and m is equal to negative 28. Alrighty, let's go ahead and check the next page. The next type of problems that we are going to be solving is using the distributive property. So to help warm us up, let us look at the following warm-up problems. If we look here at number 1, if we are distributing, remember we're taking this outside number and we are distributing or multiplying it by what is inside the parentheses. The mailman, which is the outside number, number 2 in this instance, has to go to every single house or every single term inside the parentheses. So 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 3 is positive 6. So I have 2x plus 6. Now, I can't simplify anymore because they are not like terms. 2x has a variable, which is x. 6 is just a constant or a number, so those two cannot be combined. If we look over here at number 2, we have negative times x plus 4. And remember, when we have a negative, it's really like a negative 1 on the outside. So when we go through and we distribute, we're going to have negative 1x minus 4, or that simplifies to negative x minus 4. You do not have to write or show that negative 1. And then the last one, we are distributing a fraction. Remember, it acts as the same as if it was an integer. So we multiply 2/3 times 3. Those cancel out, so I have 2x. And then 2/3 times 6, we would get 12 over 3, which is equal to 4. So when that simplifies, you get 2x plus 4. Now, we are going to be using those skills to go through and solve by using the distributive property. So let's look at number 1, please. We have 5 times the quantity of 2x plus 5 is equal to negative 35. When we go through and we solve, the first thing we need to do is distribute. So I am multiplying 5 times 2x to get 10x, and then 5 times a positive 5, which is positive 25. And that is equal to negative 35. Now, this is where our arrow method comes into play here. With our arrow method, please remember we are doing order of operations backwards. So the first thing that we see is we are multiplying our x times 10, and then we are adding 25 to it. So to undo that and to isolate x, to solve for x, we need to undo it. So multiplication, the opposite of that is division, and the opposite of addition is subtraction. So the first thing we need to do is we need to subtract what we were adding to that x. So since we were adding 25, we need to subtract 25 from both sides. That cancels out, and I get 10x is equal to negative 60. And then I need to divide. I'm going to divide both sides by what is being multiplied by that x. So since 10x is 10 times x, once I divide both sides by 10, the 10's cancel out, and I have x is equal to negative 6. Now, if we look over here at number 2, and we distribute, we have negative times x, which is negative x, negative times negative 4, which is a positive 4, is equal to negative 22. Now, we're going to be using that arrow method yet again. The first thing, we have multiplication. It's being multiplied by a negative 1. Second thing is it is adding 4. So to undo that, we are going to divide and subtract. So the first thing we are going to do is subtract 4 from both sides. And remember, your sides are talking about each side of the equal sign. So 4 minus 4 is 0, so that cancels out, and I bring down my negative x. Negative 22 minus 4 is negative 26. So then when I go through and I divide both sides by negative 1 to undo that negative, or multiplying by a negative 1, then I have x is equal to positive 26. Now, I would like you to try 3 and 4 for me. So go ahead, pause the video, and try these. Alrighty, so if you had gone through and tried these ones, you should have first distributed. So you got negative 24d plus 16 is equal to 88. You should have subtracted 16 from both sides to get negative 24d is equal to 72. You would have divided both sides by negative 24. And you would have gotten d is equal to negative 3. For number 4, you would have gotten 12x plus 8 minus 3x is equal to negative 10. However, this one takes what we did in example 1, and it also asks us to combine like terms. My like terms are 12x and minus 3x, so that's going to be 9x plus 8 is equal to negative 10. We'd subtract 8 from both sides to get 9x is equal to negative 18. Divide both sides by 9, and we get x is equal to negative 2. So sometimes when we have the distributive property, we will also need to combine like terms. Now, the last two examples that we're going to go over are going to deal with decimals and fractions. Oftentimes, you guys are afraid of seeing decimals and fractions, or you think you did something wrong. So please make sure that you know it is okay to have decimals and fractions. If we look at number 5 here, we are going to solve this exactly how we were solving it when there was integers. So we're going to use the arrow method. The first thing we see is multiplication. It's getting multiplied by 0.02. And then we see addition because we have a positive 3.5. So to undo that, the opposite of multiplication is division. The opposite of addition is subtraction. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 3.5 from both sides. That cancels out, and I have negative 200ths times x is equal to negative 2 and 2600ths. Then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 200ths. And when that cancels out, I am left with x is equal to 113. Now, we went ahead and we started with decimals, but in this case, we got a whole number. So sometimes you will have a whole number as your answer when you are solving with decimals, and other times you will get a decimal answer. Either way is okay. So then if we look over here at number 6, say if you want to pause it and try it by yourself, that would be great. However, if not, continue to watch the video. So the first thing we are going to do is combine like terms, and we will get 5.76 plus 0.34x is equal to 7.1. Now we are going to subtract 5.76 from both sides. That cancels out, and we are left with 0.34x is equal to 1.34. When we divide both sides by 3400ths, or 0.34, we end up getting x is equal to 3.94117,647, and it keeps on going. So a good approximation for this would be if we rounded to 4 decimal places. So we would have x is equal to 3.9412. And if we ever have an approximation, we use the squiggly equal sign. So x is about 3 and 9400ths. The last example that we are going to go over today is going to be using fractions. And just to remind you guys, when we add or subtract fractions, we need to have a common denominator. And to find that common denominator, you use the lowest common multiple. And remember, that lowest common multiple means that we need to find the smallest number that the two denominators share as multiples. So when we go ahead and we find the least common multiple of 12 and 9, we are going to list out their multiples. So 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, and that keeps on going. And the factors, or sorry, the multiples of 12 are going to be 12, 24, 36, 48, and those keep on going on. So we look for the ones that they share. And if we can see the smallest number that they both share is 36. So the least common multiple for this case is 36. So that will come in handy when we are going through and solving multi-step equations that have fractions. So if we look at this first one here, they all have the same denominator of 8. So I do not have to find the least common multiple because they have a common denominator. So if they have a common denominator, what I'm really doing is x plus 7x over 8 is equal to 46 over 8. So if we look over here on the left-hand side, we're going to combine like terms. And x plus 7x is equal to 8x. So I'd have 8x over 8 is equal to 46 over 8. 8 over 8 cancels out because 8 divided by 8 is 1. And I am left with x is equal to 46 over 8. Now, we know we can combine or simplify our fractions to get 23 over 4, which simplifies to be 5 and 3/4. So either of those two are going to be in simplest form. Now, I want to look at number 10. If we look at this example here, we are going to be distributing a fraction. So we are going to multiply 3/4 times x to get 3/4 x. And then we are going to be multiplying 3/4 times 8. So we're going to be subtracting 6 because 3 times 8 is 24. 24 divided by 4 is 6. And we bring down that subtraction sign. And that is going to be equal to 9. So now we are going to do our arrow method. First we multiply by 3/4 and then we subtract by 6. So the opposite of multiply is divide. The opposite of subtract is add. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides to get 3/4 x is equal to 15. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 3/4. But dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal, so I could really multiply both sides by 4 over 3. These cancel out, so I bring my x down, and I get x is equal to 20, because 15 times 4 over 3 is 60 divided by 3, which simplifies to be 20. Now, to end this video, I want you to try 8 and 9. We will go over these two on Tuesday. So, please make sure that you finish 8 and 9, and then please get the homework sheet from the substitute or Miss Rogers. Hope you guys understood this. Email me if you don't have any questions. Have a good day, you guys.